Hey everyone, it's finally here, the giant LEGO City mobile construction crane for summer 2024. Just look at this thing, it's massive. The box barely fits in frame. Let's have a look at the back of the box. And yes, it's a pretty large box. We get to see all the functions at the back of the box. And I will also say that depending on the region that you're in and the time that you get the set, whether you get it right now or you get it like in a few months or a year from now, you might be getting a different box. So I'll point out, bring the box closer, and at the same time here are the dimensions of the crane if you're interested. So this box is actually using the newer style with the tapes all around, so we're going to cut those and then you'll see how it opens. It's not like the boxes that we usually get. It's the first time that we have this kind of box on this channel. So let's take a look. I'm just going to remove the whole top like this. And then here are the contents of the box inside. And you do see here that we got a bunch of plastic bags, so still no paper bags. Let's see what we have here. So in this box we got 11 numbered bags from 1 all the way to 11. And in this sleeve or envelope, we got this sticker sheet, which is honestly not too bad given the size of the set. It doesn't have any tricky stickers or anything like that, at least not at first glance. And we also got this very thick instruction manual that we will not be using. There is a QR code here if you want to scan it for the points, but we do see here basically everything that we get in the set. I will look at the first few pages just to see, is there anything here that is interesting or unusual? So yeah, still talking about chained paper bags. You will get an orange brick separator in the set, and then it tells you open bag 1 and start building the minifigures basically, which is what we're going to do anyway. At the end, there's a part list. I'll let you check this out on lego.com if you're interested because it has already been posted there. And then there's advertisements for a few other sets, so let me know if you're interested in any one of these by putting a comment down below. And there are some of these that I've already reviewed, including this one here, this one. You can find out those reviews on my channel, and this one, and we're going to look at this and the crane together at the end once I build it. So yeah, from this point on, I will no longer use these instructions, and I will start the build, starting with bag 1. So bag 1 builds this porta potty. I don't know how it's done on the inside. I think it's done like this. I'm not 100% sure because I only know what it looks like from the outside. But it is a porta potty at the end of the day. I don't know what to do with these pieces here, but I do know that we also build the first part of the crane with bag 1, and this was very straightforward to put together. We get one nice print here, and basically the inner core of the front part of the crane. We also got these 2 minifigures as part of bag 1. We'll look at all the minifigures at the end. Bag 2 builds the upper part of the front part of the crane, including these nice lights here, this engine here that has an openable cover, and some of the sides here, and this elephant logo, which is a sticker on both sides. This elephant actually represents strength and power. It's a new brand for LEGO City Construction, according to one of the LEGO City designers. So that's pretty interesting to find out. I don't know where these pieces go, but I'll hold on to them, and if I need them in a later building phase, I'll just bring them back. Bag 3 builds this middle portion of the crane right here, the middle bottom part of it. It's done very similarly to the first one here, and I like the way that we join this part with this part using a Technic pin, and then using system pieces on the top and the bottom to hold it in place. So that's pretty smart, and it's also going to make it easy to disassemble this into subcomponents later if you want to do that. Bag 4 builds this subassembly right here with the turntable. It's mounted on a ball joint, just like with the excavator. And this is almost entirely symmetrical from back, front, left, right, depending on how you look at it. And it connects to the rest of the crane using this pin. It's a very nice mechanism. We just slide that into place and then close it with 1 piece or 2 pieces, depending on the situation, and 1 piece from the bottom. Bag 5 builds the last part of the chassis and the rear. This thing is starting to be very, very long, so that's pretty cool to see. It feels more like a train, like, rather than anything else. Yeah, like, it's hard to fit the whole thing in frame without twisting it somehow, so that's pretty interesting to see. And bag 5 is so similar to the other bags that you could build most of this except the rear details without the instructions, even if you weren't using the instructions for everything else, just because the build here is very predictable, and I think that's a good thing. It's good to get into the habit of this particular build right here, although everything is going to change moving forward. Bag 6, note the dot here to distinguish it from bag 9, builds 2 out of the 4 outriggers. So 2 of these 4, and the interesting thing that they did is that these are identical. They're not mirrored, they're not flipped, they're actually exactly the same, because this and this are the same, and then this and this one is covered, not visible, but in this position are also exactly the same. So basically we just take these and we're going to attach them. But before we do that, we still need to do bag 7, and then we get these pieces here that will be used at the end of bag 7. So they're not extra parts or spare parts that are not required. Those are these here, these are extra parts. But then these parts we do need for the build, so do not throw them away after bag 6. So bag 7 builds the remaining 2, and we can connect all of them to the crane, and they all work the same way. So essentially we take this piece here from before, we attach it like this, push it all the way, that's very important. We take a matching one, in this case it's going to be this one right here, just because we want these to be at the end, these feet if you want to call it that, or basically the ends of the outriggers. Connect these two in place using this beam right here. A little tricky, make sure it's all the way. And finally, put in this stopper piece over here. And we're done. We have an outrigger that has friction, it can move in and out, and this piece here should align with this so that you can firmly attach it. It's not going to go anywhere, so that's pretty cool. Bag 8 contains a bunch of regular pieces, these specialized pieces used usually for cranes and other vehicles, as well as this thing here, which is going to be the string. So the string that is used here is slightly elastic, has this silvery gray color to it. It looks to be very strong. There is no spare string, unfortunately, so if you lose this one or if you cut it accidentally, you're going to have to get yourself another one, as long as LEGO sells them. Otherwise, you could always use your own unofficial string. Bag 8 builds the upper part of the turntable right here. We have this string that's ready to go. We have this interesting mechanism where we have this, the thing that controls the string is basically this wheel here, so even more wheels on this giant crane. It's sort of a weird angle. I'm trying to fit it in frame as best as I can. But actually there's a gear here that adds additional friction so that when we release or wind up the string, there's a friction to it, so it does not easily move, and that's actually a good thing here. We want this to hold itself in place, especially when there's a heavy load pulling on the string. This is useful to have that additional friction over here with the blue pin. With bag 8, we also built the underside of this boom right here, which is what you can see here on the box. So these components right here, and these are clickable, so they're not going to, you can click this to extend by 1, by 2, etc., but it's going to hold itself in place. So these are not going to fall off very easily, so that's a good thing. You just need to remember not to click it up so much that it gets removed, so just something to keep in mind when you're playing with this. So this piece, for those who have not seen it before, is this big helix with axles, Technic axles on each side, and basically it's used to translate rotations into lateral movements, meaning straight movements back and forth. It's going to be useful for extending the boom of the crane. We've seen this in other LEGO City sets previously, like the police station from a while back, so it's a pretty fun piece, and I believe we've also seen it in LEGO Friends in Andrea's modern mansion, for example. Yeah, that looks cool. Bag 9 gives us this minifigure with walkie-talkie, this thing here, so the rear control cabin that can swing back and forth, interestingly enough, and this boom right here with 4 stickers, 2 on each side, which is not yet attached to the main build because there's still stuff that's going to be added here in the next bags. I'll just point out that with this spiral, if we rotate the spiral, it's going to turn a bunch of axles. It turns this gear that eventually turns these gears right here. So that's pretty cool. So in bag 10, we got a bunch of regular parts, plus this piece is actually new to this set. It has never existed anywhere before. Although one disadvantage of this piece is that it's very difficult to remove on the undersides if you make a mistake, because even the brake separator can't get it out. Alright, we are done with the build. I forgot to mention earlier, but bag 10 builds this thing here and then the interior part of the crane, and we'll look at everything in more detail in just a bit. And bag 11 builds this rear part. Alright, let's have a look at the minifigures. So in this set we got 4 minifigures. We got these 2 at the start of the build, where this is either an engineer or a manager of some sort with the RoboWorld printed tile. So that's pretty interesting to see. Both minifigures have prints on the torso, front and back. Here's a look at the print on the back, as well as the alternative expression, where she's either concentrating on something or just being disappointed or concerned. Nice to get that alternative expression. This guy has none because of the cap, and he has a bit of a scar on his face, so I'll try to make that visible by reducing the brightness. Yeah, so it's either a scar or a birthmark, but it looks more like a scar. He does seem to be very happy though with the high visibility strips on his torso, and this is done in the new reddish orange color, which is different from the orange color that LEGO used to use previously for these construction figures. And he's not bald, since they do give him an extra hairpiece. It's always appreciated. For a long time, LEGO did not do this, but now that they are doing it, I think they should be encouraged, so this is always great to see. So yeah, nice look at the first 2 figures. The final 2 figures that we get are these, and we get these towards the very end of the build in bags 9 and 11 for some reason. So you build one bag, you get 2 figures, and you don't get any minifigures for a while, and then you get 2 more towards the very end. So it's interesting to see why LEGO did that. This torso is exactly the same as the one before. You can see the alternative expression here at the same time. But the issue with this particular piece is that the print here is slightly offset, so the distance between this pocket to the edge should be the same distance as this pocket, and I see that they're not exactly the same distance. It's very rare that I have complaints about LEGO printing, but here, this is one example. So this could have been done a little bit better. It's not the end of the world, especially for a generic minifigure. It's not like a licensed character or something that's extremely, extremely valuable, but it's still disappointing when LEGO does not get this done perfectly right. These prints are fine, and the legs are fine for both, so that's always good to see. And of course, it's good to see alternative expressions and alternative hair pieces as well. So this guy also gets this nice hair piece right here. I believe this is the same as the one used for Luke Skywalker from Star Wars, or something that's similar to it at least. So it's always good to get these hair pieces with LEGO City construction figures, so that you can either use this as an extra piece to cap with the earmuffs, or you can use this as an extra piece as you prefer. And it's good for play value. So excellent figures in this set, with this minor nitpick of this torso being not exactly centered. And I do like the fact that 3 of the 4 minifigures get accessories, except for this guy. So we also get a toilet or a porta potty in the set. It's actually the first thing that is built in bag 1. Here it is from all angles and giving it the minifigure treatment. And then let's actually let the minifigure go inside it. So we're just gonna put him here. He's gonna do his business, and we'll close the door for privacy. And then we'll just put this in the corner and we'll forget about it for a while. And he's gonna wonder what's happening. But while he's wondering, we're gonna take a look at the crane itself, and I'll tell you up front, this thing is a beast. This thing is massive. I can barely fit it in frame, and it's like most compact position. It's pretty long. The exact dimensions are on the box, but let's roll this in as much as we can. Yeah, we can't make it smaller than this. So in terms of overall footprint, it's way, way longer than it is wide, which contributes to its appearance that it looks thin, although it's not, except for this part here at the back where these weights, they take up lots of space. Here's a look at it from the front. And we'll do a pan like this. And here is a look from the back. So it's very well done with lots of details. Most of it is brick built. We do have some prints like these ones here, but a lot of the red and white is brick built, and I really appreciate that. We have these weights and these outriggers. We're going to look at these later. Let's have a look at the thing before we start activating all the functions. So again, here's a look. Bird's eye view. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. There is a rear cabin right here that opens up so a minifigure can sit, although this gets easily removed by accident because it doesn't have enough clutch power to hold. You can easily put a minifigure here because there are no studs. So the minifigure will just be put in place right here. You have to get the minifigure in just right, and then it's actually easier to just do this, like force these down, and then put this like on top of, as if it's like a removable one and not a hinged one. So that is a little bit disappointing, this mechanism here, but it's modifiable, so it's not too bad. And then this thing can swing out. When we remove this, it can go all the way back to point backwards when needed. And now let's look at the functions of the crane. There are similar. You can also access the front simply by removing these pieces here and put a maximum of 2 figures here. Let's just put in 1 driver, and we'll leave the passenger seat empty for now. And here they are using 4 studs, so when the minifigure sits, I would recommend not pushing the minifigure all the way down, just so that it's easy to remove him or her without having to like pull it off and only the head and torso come out and the legs stay stuck there. So that's what I would suggest. And we just close this, and let's have a look at the functions of the crane. So first of all, to be safe before we do any operations on the crane, we need to extend the outriggers. We do it like this. So we basically pull from the center and these come out. Here's what this looks like from the top. So basically it starts off in this position, and then you basically pull this, and there's a friction piece here that makes it like not move around all the time, so that's pretty good. We do the same here and the same for the back, and it's going to basically look like a big X shape. Then we take these pieces here and we attach them to these ball joints for additional stability, like this. Alright, now that these are set in place, we can now start moving the boom upwards. So let's do that. And to do that, we're going to just manually pull on it. But before doing that, we need to remove this piece here and put it here. I don't know why they chose to do it and make it look like a s'more, but that's how they did it. So we'll just pull this up, and there's a ratchet. And actually, if you want to lock it in a particular position, then we can actually reinsert that piece right here. It's actually pretty smart when you think about it. And this way it's not going to move. So here's a look at the rest of the crane. So now we've moved this as up as it can go in terms of the angle. Now, how about this? How far can this go? Well, we're going to move this wheel right here. So I'm going to turn this, and notice what's happening over here. It's going to extend the boom. Extend, extend, extend. It's going to keep going and going. At some point, it's not going to want to turn anymore just because the rope is a bit tight, so we can actually loosen the rope using this other wheel right here. I like the fact that they use the tires here. It just makes it easier to play with compared to the usual hard plastic gears that they usually use. So notice that as I turn this wheel, the spool of string is going to basically get looser, or just give more string to the hook right here. It's a fairly simple mechanism, and I recommend taking the time to properly wrap the string around like this, and don't do it in a random way, because that will be a pain to deal with later on. So yeah, we'll just lower the hook, bring it all the way down to the ground, or down to this point at least, and then there's still quite a bit of string left, so that's pretty good. Now let's extend the boom further. Let's just watch it go. And as this is extending, this is lifting the hook and the mechanism shown here. So yeah, turn this, and then this is turning a gear, by the way, which is turning these connected axles, which is turning this thing, and this thing connects to a bunch of pieces I showed in the speed build. And so now it just keeps extending more and more. Keep going, and then at some point it stops. Like, there's something that just locks it in place. And I know for a fact that like this is a little bit longer, but not too much longer than this, so it's actually a good thing that the mechanism is stopped here, so you don't accidentally make this thing just like fall out. So yeah, this thing is pretty large. Let's extend the string further. So I'm expecting the string to be able to hit the ground in like the maximum position. So a little bit more. Yes, and this is actually the point where the string ends. If I keep rotating this wheel, it's going to roll back the string in the opposite direction. So it actually turns out that the string is the perfect length, at least the way I tied it without lots of slack. Go all the way up here and then all the way back down. So that's actually pretty cool that they thought about that and that the string is the exact perfect length. Notice that from this piece all the way up here, there's actually 2 parts of the string. So just to loop around this wheel here. So that is something to keep in mind. And if you change this, I don't recommend changing it, but if you do want to change it, you can make the string even longer, because instead of using twice the string on this side, we'll just use once the length. So that's pretty cool. So let's bring this down to a more reasonable angle. All right, so in this position, let's try to lift some stuff with it, starting with the given porta potty. We just gotta fix it in place using the hook, and then we can lift it up. There we go. And then we can take this guy for a ride of his life. Yeah, like this thing can go very, very high up. Yeah, and let's say right about now he's done using the porta potty, and he's gonna open the door and just go back to work. So let's check in on him. Oh, he's not doing so good. He's not doing so good at all. So let's get him down to safety. We don't want to traumatize him too much. And let's see what else we can lift with this crane. It feels like it can handle a lot of weight before it ends up breaking something. Let's put that to the test. So here's the Speed Champions version of the Lamborghini Countach with the minifigure inside, and it appears to hold itself just as well. It's a little bit stressed, but it's fine. And this is like, I extended this to the maximum length just to make the test as interesting as possible. And I definitely want this test to succeed, because otherwise the Countach will fall to its doom and I'll have to rebuild it again without the instructions. Check out my video for that if you haven't seen it already. So yeah, we can definitely lift a Speed Champions car. How about this truck? This is the tractor of the Lego yellow delivery truck. And this, oh, that did not work because it just ripped those pieces off. So this is probably too heavy. I'm trying something with the Lego City bus. I'm still holding it, and it feels like if I let go, it's not going to end well for the bus or the crane or both. So the bus, even with just the first floor and not the top floor, is probably too heavy as well. The small mechs are a good example of that. So for example, this is the Lego Star Wars Boba Fett mech, and he's holding on this bar piece that can attach to the hook. So that's pretty convenient, and if you don't mind mixing Star Wars and Lego City, you can have lots of fun, lots of scenarios with this crane. So I'm very happy that it can at least pick up these mechs as well as these Speed Champions. So I think that's pretty cool. And you can probably pick up some small buildings or components of buildings, and you could have a lot of fun playing with this thing. Before we put the crane back together and do some size comparison, we'll point out that the motor here is visible. So we can actually lift this cover up and look at the motor, which is done here using not that many pieces, but the effect is still good. It's nice to imagine a minifigure just coming up here, looking at the motor and trying to fix it. So that's additional play value that we got. So that's pretty fun. Yeah, and that's maybe when you would want to use the concerned face, if all the workers are gone, and she's the only one left that can try to fix the motor if it's broken. So lots of amazing play patterns made available just by lifting this piece here. It's pretty simple, but it gives a lot more play value, in my opinion, especially for kids. And for adult collectors, yeah, this motor is a bit on the simple side compared to what you'd find with Lego Icons, but it still counts, in my opinion, as a nice thing to do. I watched an interview with the Lego designer of this set, so he said that we want to do this with all the Lego City sets going forward, and I really appreciate that. He also said that this elephant is a new brand for Lego City construction, meant to represent strength. So I really like that. It's a nice direction for Lego City, although they are missing the coffee mug that they used to have in all their sets previously. Here's a better look at me winding this down or bringing it back into its place. You can see here the worm gear and how it works with these pieces here to basically move it in a lateral direction. And then you can see here the one of the gears that is used to make that whole mechanism work. So that's pretty cool and interesting to see. And yeah, we see the pieces go in until it hits the stopper and it cannot move any further. So when we bring everything down into its most closed position, the hook here can be hooked onto this bar piece, just like a real crane. So that's pretty cool to see. And this way it's not going to be moving around when you're driving on the road. So that's very nice. I will point out before closing the outriggers that they really do lift the wheels, at least the rear wheels, off the ground. So notice that I can spin this wheel and it's going to turn freely because it's not touching the ground anymore. And I think it's the same for this wheel, but like the wheels at the front, they eventually do end up touching the ground. So this one a little bit, this one is not touching the ground. So that's pretty interesting to see. And when we close the outriggers, it's the same on all four of them. There's this piece here that connects to these studs here to hold it in place, so it doesn't go flying around randomly. So that's also a very thoughtful way to do things. So kudos to the designer for this particular trick. So as I promised earlier, I'm going to show you what this thing looks like when we swing this backwards. So if we try to swing it now, it's going to run into this and we can't really move it anymore until we pull this thing, which is held by these two clips. We just have to pull on it a bit and it will remove itself. So we could use this as extra counterweight, or we could use it in other contexts. And then this one can swing all the way. And there is a bar here, but I don't see what to attach it to. So this, I think it's just going to stay like this unless there's some other piece here that can be used to lock it in place. I also see a bar here at the front. I'm actually not sure how this is locked in place or whether it's locked in place or not. But regardless, we can have the minifigure just pointing backwards. I guess it's useful for traveling on narrow roads. This minifigure can communicate with the driver. Or maybe when the crane is going into reverse, maybe this minifigure can take control in that case. However you want to see it. So yeah, that's a useful addition. One thing I don't like is this blue pin. I know why it exists. It's so that when it's in the default front position, it's going to hold itself and not just swing loose all of a sudden. I just wish it was not blue. These blue pins right here, I don't like them, but I can tolerate them. But this one is just like an axle that's sticking out. It's just very unsightly to me. And it looks bluer in person than it looks on video. Now let's put everything back into its default configuration and do some size comparisons. And by the way, I love the way this snaps into place. It's done very smoothly. We just push it. Easier to do this with two hands, but try nonetheless with one hand. Push it in. Yeah, there we go. That's pretty satisfying. And this is held in place. We'll put all of these in their respective places. I think it's a really good idea that LEGO thought of kids and like not having these just be loose or thrown around in random places, but having a special dedicated place for them. Something really appreciated. I just wish they could be like locked in place better so they're not very loose. That's, I guess, one way that this could be improved, but this is still very good because before we would not even get this. I don't know if I mentioned this previously, but this is the LEGO set, at least LEGO crane, with the most amount of wheels and tires, at least for one particular build. Maybe if you have like a 10 in one, like 10 cars in one set kind of super pack, then you might have more wheels and tires. But for one build, I believe this one is the record holder. If I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments which LEGO set has more tires, more wheels to build one big thing. I'm really curious to know. I think this is the record holder as of summer 2024. I'm going to bring in the LEGO delivery truck for size comparison, but I'll just point out that this new piece that was recently introduced for the truck is the same piece that's used right here where the outrigger stands. So it's nice to see the same piece being used over and over. So it's good to get this piece in more and more sets so we can use it for our own custom creations. That's always nice to see. So here are the two sets next to each other, and they actually have the same width of about 8 studs plus a little bit on each side, except for this one here, which is wider just in this particular part. But overall, you can see that they have the same width in general. And then the length is also surprisingly similar. I was not expecting this when I was building the crane, but it turns out that they do have roughly the same length. The color is not exactly the same. This is using the standard LEGO yellow that's been around for a long, long time. This is using the newer orangish yellow color, and I think it's a matter of personal preference. Which color do you prefer? I think for me it depends on the context, so I actually do like that the LEGO truck is using the classic LEGO color because you have here the LEGO logo. For a long, long time this color has been used, so it makes sense to use the LEGO yellow here. And here I do think it makes sense to use this orangish yellow. It just looks a lot more professional, a lot more realistic, so I'm actually happy about both color choices here. I think both of them are done exactly right, and I'm very happy about that. I've already taken a look at the truck and the side builds in detail, but just as a reminder, this truck came with lots of printed LEGO pieces. This truck came with lots of printed tiles that represent LEGO sets, so it was magical for me to build this truck. And this one also has an openable hood where you can actually see the motor inside. So building this was magical. Building the crane did not feel magical to me. It was a nice feeling, and I could feel a sense of accomplishment, especially towards the end when I saw everything coming together and building the mechanism here. I learned lots of things when building the crane, but I just did not feel the childhood nostalgia that I got when building the truck. So just on emotional reasons alone, like I would prefer the truck in terms of the build experience just because it brought me back to my childhood. The crane is not bad at all. It's just having a hard time competing with one of the best sets of all time. So this crane is excellent in terms of the build experience. I enjoyed putting it together without the instructions, and it was really informative and fun. It did have a few more stickers than the truck, which only had 3 small stickers, and they were pretty much optional, but the stickers were not too bad. This is a sticker sheet, and for a set of this size, I think it's completely acceptable. Of course, it's better if these were printed, but I can understand why they would not want to print on this very specialized piece. Of course, you could always leave this sticker off if you don't want it. I don't think it's absolutely necessary. This one, I think it's kind of important, and same for the elephant. It kind of gives the whole set its personality. And we do get quite a few prints as well, including this one here, and this tile that references the Robo World set. In terms of value, this one is 100 US or euros, 130 Canadian, and this one is $10 more or 10 euros more in all currencies. So is it worth it to spend $10 and get the crane, or should you just stick with the delivery truck? If it was up to me, I would pick the delivery truck just because of all the fun that I had. I love Lego. I love playing with Lego, including playing with Lego within Lego. So this to me has lots of value if I had to pick one or the other. But the crane is not bad. If you like construction, if you like mechanisms, then the crane is the way to go, and the extra $10 or euros is definitely worth it. This is a size comparison with the 2022 mobile crane that LEGO did, and it does have the same width, but if you look at the length, it's obviously a very big difference. And back in the day, this used to be sold for $40 US, $50 Canadian. So, and this one did not have any side build. This one has the small porta potty. So I can understand the big difference in volume of stuff and therefore the big difference in price. I don't think LEGO should have retired this set because a lot of kids are going to go to the LEGO store, they're going to see this and want this, and they probably cannot afford it, or their parents would not want to get them this, because also this thing is pretty large, it's going to take up a lot of space. So I do think there should be space in the LEGO portfolio for a small crane, such as this one. So I think they should have kept this on the shelves either as is, or maybe they could have replaced all the blue here with black, just to make it look more professional, make it look more like the Big Brother crane, and give parents the choice, give kids the choice. Either you spend $40 US and you get this. This is not bad for what you pay for, but in comparison, this looks like a toy and this looks like a display model. This looks so much more professional. It's just very well done. This is excellent, but I just don't like the idea that this is way more expensive. So if you wanted to buy a LEGO crane last year or a couple years ago, you can get this and you don't really have to think too much about it. If you want to get a crane now, you have to pay so much more. And I think there might be a 4+ crane that's included in one of those other sets, the construction sets, but even that one is not very good value for money because you spend a lot of money to get very oversimplified builds. So that one is only going to appeal to very young children. The set is good. It definitely has its place, but I wish that LEGO would have kept this or a recolored version of this for people who want to have something that takes up less space and costs less money. And this is a size comparison with the 2024 LEGO City Construction lineup. So only this one is done in the standard yellow. This one is done in the orangish yellow, the excavator, and this one came out a month or two ago. I built it without the instructions. You can see that video on my channel as well. And then, yeah, so this one is a bit wider. Yeah, so this one is a bit wider, but it also has a lot less footprint and is way more affordable. So here's a flyover of all these sets, just so you get an idea of the overall size. In terms of value for money, I actually like this one the best. I'm not looking at price per piece, or I'm not doing any math, but just thinking about a kid or a parent with a limited budget, they want to get their kid a construction set without breaking the bank. I think this is excellent for that. You get one minifigure, you get a pretty reasonable build. Of course, it's not perfect, nothing ever is, but this is pretty decent. A lot better than what they would have put up for sale just a few years ago. So this is definitely not bad. If you want to splurge a little extra, if you want something with treads, then you're going to have to go with the excavator. And this one is done really well. like I'm actually showing the camera unfriendly angle with this piece right here. When you turn it around, it actually looks a lot nicer with the cabin right there. Lots of printed pieces, some stickers, but not too bad. And this one is a lot of fun to play with. And it also has the openable motor, just like the crane. So I like the fact that LEGO's doing this more and more. So that's pretty cool. This one, I think it's removable, so you could have a look at it and put it back. So that's pretty interesting. This one is not removable as we saw earlier, but still is the thought that counts. And if you have a kid who's an absolute construction fanatic like I used to be, probably going to want to get all of them, or they're going to try to convince you to get all of them. So if I was a kid today, I would definitely want this, and this, and this, and maybe a few other construction sets as well. I love construction. I love using LEGO to build LEGO. So this is like a dream come true for me to have these sets available to me to purchase and play with them as an adult. And kids these days, as I like to say, for those who can afford this, they're really spoiled and they're going to get a very good LEGO experience. They're going to enjoy this as kids, and then when they grow up to be adults, they're going to buy the $1,000 crane, whatever LEGO has put up for sale at that point in time, because now they're expecting the very best, and this is the very best. Is it overpriced? It's hard for me to say that because you spend a lot of time building this. You put all the pieces together, all the wheels, all the tires, all the different components. You got 4 minifigures, you got a tiny side build. I don't put a lot of value for the porta potty, but it has humorous value, so there is that. And the mechanism that you put together, there's a lot that went into designing this set, and I have a lot of respect for the designer because of that. So this set gets a lot of things done right, which I really appreciate, but I do think one thing that is missing from this set, and that really should be added, is a steering mechanism. Because let's just try to drive this thing. If I want to make this turn, it's going to be quite a hassle, like all these wheels with lots of friction. I would have really appreciated it if they included some kind of steering mechanism, even if it's very basic, just so it's easier for us to turn this giant thing. And I know they do this with the LEGO Technic cranes. So now that LEGO City cranes are becoming larger and more complicated, I would expect them to start including steering mechanisms going forward. And here's a simple way that they could do it. They could have a bunch of gears all like in parallel like this, and then the gears like have like intermediate gears so that they all turn the same way. And then these gears are connected to some axle, which is connected to this piece shown here in red. It doesn't have to be this piece exactly, but just a piece that has this 90-degree angle on which you connect a different axle, shown here in light gray, and then on that you connect the wheels. The end result being you turn some knob at the front or the back, or both. You have 2 knobs, and then that's going to turn these gears, and then it's going to turn them like this or like that, and then it's going to make the wheels turn. There might be other ways to do the steering mechanism, so that's not the only way. If you have a good idea for how to do it, comment down below. I know it's not possible to do it with just the pieces included in this set, but if you were to get extra pieces of your own, and just with a bit of playing around on the underside, I'm pretty sure, I didn't think I showed the underside of the build, so I'll do that now. Yeah, like with some messing around over here, replacing these bricks with alternative pieces, and then connecting wheels to whatever mechanism you have, I do think it's possible to create a steering mechanism. And if you want to be really fancy, then you can make the outer wheels spin the most compared to the inner wheels that turn the least. I know there was at least one LEGO Technic crane that did that in the past, and I thought that was absolutely amazing. And maybe we'll see that in the successor to this set whenever it comes out in like 2 or 3 years. So hopefully we do see that eventually. And if you agree with that, let LEGO know. Let them know your feedback, because they do take your feedback into consideration when designing future sets. It's too late for sets that are going to come out very soon or next year, because sets are designed up to 18 months in advance. But for sets coming out in 2026, 27, now is a good time to leave LEGO your feedback. I will also point out while I'm here that this came together quite nicely. So in addition to the steering mechanism, there's no articulation here. When I was looking at this, I was hoping that there would be some kind of articulation where the whole crane body itself would be able to rotate. Hopefully they include that as well. Just like with the tractor trailer, you could turn it around. Same thing here. Yeah, now let's talk about price and value. This set costs $110 US or euros, or $140 Canadian. Now, is the set worth that price? I have to say yes. I often like to get LEGO sets on discount, and if you find this on discount, good for you. It's good to get everything on discount. Why not if you have the opportunity? But regular retail price, is it a ripoff? Is it bad? I cannot say that. Like for about the same price, you could get the hoopty instead of this. So definitely this is something that is, I think, worth it in my opinion. Now, there's a lot of display value with this set, especially when you extend the outriggers and you lift this all the way up. Like if you have a construction company, or if you're just really passionate about construction vehicles, then as an adult, you would probably get this as a display set more than a play set if you're getting it for yourself and not for a child. And then if you are a child, or if you're getting this for a child, then you have lots of play possibilities. You could lift not just the porta potty, but you could lift Star Wars Max, you could lift Speed Champions vehicles, or parts of buildings that are not too heavy, and spend many, many hours playing with this crane. And it's so large, it has so many mechanisms that you could have 2-3 kids playing with this thing together, as long as they can get along. Like you could have so many stories with the minifigures building like a tower or something. So really, really exciting stuff. And when you build this, you learn something. You learn how this mechanism works, learn how to connect all these mechanisms. Basically, you turn something and then something happens all the way over here. That's kind of magical. Like I just rotate this thing and then this thing moves. That's pretty magical to me. So it's really fun to build that and fun to live that experience, especially if you're a big fan of LEGO construction or just construction in general. Or another group of people who would want to get this set are people who care a lot about wheels. I know when I was a kid, I would have gone crazy. I would have wanted to get this set just for the wheels and tires, because you get so many of them in the set. If you just want the wheels, buy them individually. You don't need to get the set entirely just for the wheels, but if you want lots of useful parts as a parts pack, you could. A lot of these parts are specialized, and you're probably going to use them only for a crane. Although I'd like to see what people come up with when it comes to these parts. But there's also lots of regular parts used in this set that you could use to make your own custom creations, a custom crane, or a different kind of truck or vehicle. You got lots of useful pieces for building a vehicle in this set, obviously, because it is a vehicle. But you don't have to stick to the instructions. You don't have to stick to the main model. You can come up with your own thing. And so for mock makers, I think this is an excellent set because you got lots of really useful and generic parts and some specialized parts as well that you could use to make your own creations. So that's pretty exciting as well. I don't have too many negatives about this set. One of the negatives is this thing here. Like, it's really hard to, like, this thing lifts off very easily, so that's a nitpick. I've had a few other nitpicks. I've pointed them out throughout the video already. I'm not going to repeat them all right now. But in general, it's a pretty excellent set. And I highly recommend that if you want to get this, if you're doubting whether or not to get it, go get it. You will not regret it. You will enjoy the build and you will enjoy displaying this, especially in its full out extended form. It will take up a lot of space. There's a good thing or a bad thing depending on how you want to see things, but like, you will feel that you got your money's worth with this set. So that's all I have to say for the LEGO Mobile Construction Crane for 2024. What do you think about this set? Comment down below. Let me know. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you like about this set? What don't you like? Or do you prefer to get other construction sets or maybe other themes? So yeah, that's it for my look at the LEGO Mobile Construction Crane. Thank you so much for tuning in to Versatile Fun Designs, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.